My old man is a fishing fanatic. Half of the apartment is cluttered with fishing rods, it's the worst. On average, once a month someone steps on a hook or anchor lying on the floor, and it has to be removed at the hospital because they have barbs at the end. In my 22 years of life, I've been through this procedure about 10 times. Last week I went for some random tests, and the receptionist, as soon as she saw me, told me to take off my shoe because she thought I had another hook in my leg. The other half of the apartment is filled with Polish Fisherman, World of Fishermen, Super Carp magazines, and so on. Every week, my father tours all the kiosks in the city to collect all the fishing weeklies. I was foolish enough to introduce him to the internet, thinking we would save some money on these magazines, but now, not only does he buy them, but he also hangs out on fishing forums and gets into arguments with other fishermen about the best baits, etc. He can shout at the monitor or throw the keyboard out of the window. Once, when my father pissed me off, I created an account there and trolled him by writing random nonsense in his threads, like, Christians eat shit. My mother couldn't cook enough bigos to calm him down. Oh, and he has achieved the rank of catfish on the forum for posting 10,000 posts. When it's warm, he rushes to fish every weekend. For about 5 years, every Sunday I have fish for dinner, and my father raves about the benefits of eating this aquatic crap. When I got into college, my old man kept saying it was thanks to eating a lot of fish because they contain phosphorus and my brain works better. Every Saturday, he and his friend Marek wake up the whole family at 4 in the morning because they make noise packing fishing rods, making sandwiches, etc. During meals, he always talks about fish, and every time the topic eventually turns to the Polish Fishing Association. My father gets himself worked up and gets a terrible pain in the ass, complaining about insufficient stocking of fish, only stealing, etc. He gets all red and leaves the table, swearing, and goes to read the great encyclopedia of river fish to calm down. This year he bought himself a pontoon for Christmas. Of course, he couldn't wait until Christmas Eve, so he unpacked and inflated it in the living room yesterday. He dressed in his fishing outfit and sat in the pontoon in the middle of the apartment all day. He also ate his dinner, carp, in it. If they let me get close to all the fish in Poland, I would take and kill them all. Once, when I was in primary or middle school, I had a birthday, and as a present, my old man took me fishing with him as an exception. Great gift, damn it. We went somewhere far from the city, we got to the lake, and my father's eyes were shining, and he was licking his lips, excited. He set up all the equipment, and we sat by the water, watching the floats. After 5 minutes, I got bored, so I turned on my Discman, and my father hit me on the head with a fishing rod, saying that the fish could hear the music from my headphones and were scared away. When I wanted to scratch my butt, he immediately whispered for me not to fidget because I was rustling, and the fish could see me moving from the water and would run away. I had to sit still for 6 hours and watch the water like in some damn Guantanamo. My birthday is in November, so it was also cold as hell. At one point, my father went a few meters into the forest and farted. He explained to me that you have to fart in the forest, otherwise the fish will hear and feel it. I mentioned that my father has a friend Marek, with whom he goes fishing. Once, his fishing companion was Zbyszek. A man shaped like a ball with a mustache and wearing a bomber vest 365 days a year. They were almost like brothers with my father, he came with his wife Bozina for Christmas Eve, etc. Once my father had a name day, Zbyszek came for a drink. They got drunk, and of course, they talked about fishing and fish all the time. I was sitting in my room. At one point, they started shouting at each other about whether pikes or catfish are generally better. Don't piss me off, Zbyku, have you ever seen what kind of teeth a pike has? Snap and your hand is gone. Damn it, Tadek, catfish in Poland weigh up to 80 kilos, your pike can only jump on them. What are you talking to me about catfish, when you can barely pull a bleak out of the water? Pike is the king of water just like the lion is the king of the jungle. And they started fighting, wrestling on the carpet in the living room, and my mother and I had to separate them. Since then, they have completely broken off contact. Last year Zbyszek's wife called to say that Zbyszek fell off his bike and invited us to the funeral. My mother picked up the phone, expressed her condolences, hung up, and told my father about it, and my father said, "And very damn good. He hated him so much for that catfish." I also mentioned my father's archenemy, the Polish Fishing Association. It became my father's complete obsession, and for example, when they say on TV that there was an earthquake somewhere, my old man always mumbles under his nose that they should finally say something about those bastards from PZW. He also stopped reading non-fishing newspapers because he was pissed off that nothing was written about Polish fishing or scandals in PZW. The head of the PZW circle in my area is a certain Mr. Adam. He is the embodiment of all the evil done to Polish waters by the association for my father, and my father waged war against him for many years. Once he went to some fishing meeting where Adam was speaking, and my father returned home with a torn shirt because they forcibly removed him from the hall. He was causing such a scene. After the defeat in the physical confrontation with the armed wing of the PZW, my father began guerrilla warfare on the internet, consisting of slandering the PZW and Adam on the forums of local newspapers. He wrote some nonsense about Adam, like that Adam was a secret collaborator of the security service or that he saw him on the street scratching someone's car with a nail, etc. I didn't teach my father into so it ended with baguettes for slander, and my father had to pay Adam 2,000 zlotys. When he paid, it was unbearable at home for a week. My father was swearing at corrupt courts, PZW, Adam, and the whole world in general. From his ranting, it turned out that PZW, like some Masons, rules the whole country, pulls the strings, and has arrangements everywhere. He also converted these 2,000 into fishing rods, hooks, or boats and got a terrible pain in the ass, how much vanilla bait he could buy for these 2K, several hundred kilos. Last year, my old man decided that he must have a boat for fishing because renting was too expensive, and everyone wanted to cheat him. Son, you catch real specimens on the water. There is an element. But he couldn't afford it, nor did he have a place to keep it, and he's not a sucker to pay someone for storage, so he agreed with some local fishermen that they would buy a boat together. It would stand at some Janusz's house, who has a house, not an apartment in a block like us, in the driveway, on a trailer that Janusz has, and they would share this boat or go fishing together. At first, this cooperation went quite well, but one weekend my father got sick and couldn't go with them, and he was very upset about it. Moreover, his friends called to say that the fish were biting like crazy, so my father just lay on the couch, red with anger, and panted with rage. The situation was made even worse by the fact that he had no one to blame, which he always does. Finally, he concluded that it was unfair for them to fish without him because they all contributed equally to the boat, and on Sunday evening, when these Janusz's returned from the trip, he suddenly left the house. He returned an hour later and told me that I had to help him with something in front of the house. I go outside, and there's our car with a trailer and a boat. I ask where he got it from, and he says he stole it from Janusz's driveway because they cheated him, and I should help him carry the boat, and we're bringing it into the apartment. It was no use explaining that it would take up the entire living room. Fortunately, the boat didn't fit through the entrance door, so my father decided to leave it in front of the house. Using some chains that were on the boat and my bike lock, he tied it to a lamppost and, satisfied, wanted to go back to the apartment, but suddenly 2 cars with Janusz's co-owners arrived, who guessed where their property might be. A huge argument started because Janusz's were shouting why he stole the boat and that he should give it back, and my father was shouting that they cheated him and he contributed 500 zlotys, and he didn't fish this weekend. I tried to defuse the situation so that my father wouldn't get beaten up because it was close. After several minutes, the situation looked like this. My father is lying on the ground, clinging to the trailer, shouting that he won't give it back. Janusz's are shouting that he should give it back. One Janusz has a broken nose because he tried to pull my father away from the boat by the leg and got kicked with the other leg. 2 policemen are pulling my father by the legs, saying he's going with them to the police station because he beat someone up. All the neighbors are standing in the windows around. My mother is crying and begging my father to leave the boat and the policemen not to arrest him. Me, sadfrog.psd. In the end, the policeman pulled my father away from the boat. I gave Janusz's the code to the bike lock, and they took the boat, throwing 500 zlotys at my father earlier and saying that he no longer has any rights to the boat and it's better for him if they never meet while fishing. My father still makes a shitstorm with Janusz's on fishing forums because they created a special thread there where they warned against doing any business with my father. I observed this thread and saw how my father clumsily made troll accounts,